the global social work paper. Did you guys have any questions from, if anybody wants fruit snacks, apparently we have those too. Ooh, they busted open. Any questions about the other papers? Those did bust open and be a big mess. What's that? Yes. So second paper, I think, was due last week. And then, oh, I will before Friday. I think that's when our interim is due. So, interim grades. If I didn't, then I only have the first paper to go off of. That could be crazy. But luckily, they're just like temporary grades. Like nothing there is permanent. There's something low that just shows you to like make sure to finish what you missed. This one is more on international social work. So in the global social work paper, it says students are to investigate the International Federation of Social Work. So you just search IFSW, like literally, and you can cite their page or their website. And then NASW, that's who we kind of answer to as the National Association of Social Workers. And then write a research paper. Oh, I just thought it said on these 3 organizations. I was like, wait, wasn't that 2? It just says on these organizations. Forgot my glasses. That's how my dyslexia was diagnosed. I have they said both eyes don't focus at the same time. And I got that in graduate school. Somehow I made it through college without getting the glasses. Showing up to class, that's the key. You show up in person. That's how you do it. I don't think anybody cracked the whip on us reading every single word in the book, even in 1996. But we've got PowerPoints now. So paper should include a description of the organization as well as purpose. So a lot of people just do like page 1, IFSW, page 2, NASW, can cite their website. Do your APA. That's what our goal is, to learn that real well by the end of this, because other teachers are much harder on it than I am. They're all APA, so it's fine. Like I said, by the end, we should have it perfected. By December, you can go back and redo it if you wanted. True, only the headers go in bold. So I always give people a chance to, you can upload 2 into there if you needed to. The paper should also include a variety of human rights issues being addressed by the organizations. So IFSW, usually they do the human trafficking stuff. So you see a lot on human trafficking because that's global, it's international. NASW also would do everything we see from poverty to homelessness, sex trafficking, inflation, really. I know it's a weird way to work it in, but because prices are so high, more of us kind of struggle to like buy. I heard gas now went $100 a barrel. So I think that means $3.70 a gallon. Anybody drive far away today or like last week and see how much gas was? How much was gas? Hello. The APA? Oh, you mean from the syllabus? Or just like in the, like this, written in APA. So this one is 4 pages. And you're saying on the last one, you didn't see it. I can look at that.
No, on this one. I think on both. I didn't get that on the first one.
Just like right at the end. Like I said, we're learning it. I'm often forgiving. That's the thing that you'll see. the easiest way is to go through with, say, for example, you can just start out with APA format. There's like 3 main things that you look for. This is the best website to like fix it if you need to fix something on your APA. They tell you how to cite things and whatnot. So here's a sample paper. And it's usually the title right at the front, title page. It'll be like your name. It's actually easier to just go to images. I'll go to that because it won't load as. Actually, that does show quite a bit, but like name, title, university, date, and that's page 1. And you'll see that here. So that's kind of how people will do it. Like, right, yeah. Yeah, so the first page is just like blank, and then that's your heading. Then you write the body of your paper.
I was not doing it like that.
That's okay.
Like,
That's okay.
I was putting the stuff like my name, your name, or whatever, then the name of the assignment, and then I would just like space it like
Right.
under it.
Right. And that's why it's a learning curve. Like we'll learn it as we go in here. But that's, yeah, it's usually just like name, date. You can put my name, university you're at, and that is first page. Then from there you write normal, and if you like just your name and the date. So when you cite it, so all throughout the paper you just do name, date, name, date. At the end you do the long one, like Bradley Wilson. The social work is a field, and then you put the date at the end, and then you go through all the paper to the very end. Instead of works cited, you have references. So there's the references, and then you alphabetize them. And I always say the easiest to find those when you cite stuff is at scholar.google.com. And that's just like an easy way to organize. Like if you go to really anything in Google and you can see anything since 2019, and then you hit cite. You just copy that and alphabetize it. So there's APA for those. And it makes it easy. And if you're citing just one, in the middle of the paper, you do just like their name and then the date, like Neath, 1996. And those are the main rules. You know, obviously, as you get deeper into it and you write your graduate school papers, I have a whole manual on how to write APA. It's crazy. And this is the best website to go to. So it's called like al.purdue.edu. And they'll like, if you just type in like a website, it'll cite it for you. And that's kind of cool. So if you're like citing a website, you just type it in here, you hit cite. Or if you have a book, you type it in here. Oh, they'll let you do ISBN. That's pretty sweet.
Can I see the first page you did the heading?
So the heading is like right there.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just need to see like how it's doing.
Yeah. And that's you always do. Even my dissertation had to be written this way. So my master's thesis, my final paper in graduate school, final paper all the way through. So this one does get to 4. So you had a 2-pager, a 3-pager. Now this one is 4. So global social work paper, look up IFSW, look up NASW. So you could do a page on what is the International Federation of Social Work, then second page on National Association of Social Work, like what they do, the human rights issues that they address. I think International Federation does more human trafficking on like the global level, whereas NASW would be like local sex trafficking that we see in Ohio or wherever the chapter is. Then in addition do an internet search on social work job opportunities. So a page on like jobs in the USA, and then see how much they are. That's the coolest part. Like, how much you want to make? How much money can I get? What's the best looking job with, the best benefits? And then other countries internationally, see what jobs there are. Is that totally misspelled? Oh. The paper should include these positions and a short description of the job responsibilities. So you can cover a page on the international ones and a page on local ones, then indicate any international positions that would interest you guys. And that way, from there, you've got your paper number 3 done. That's crazy. It's already going to be the end of September next week. So the 29th. And so that is all of these. Any questions on anything?
I'll put your name in that something.
What's that?
Oh, wait, never mind. Never mind. So you take points off if it's not like with that heading and not that one.
Right. Yeah. Ideally, it should be APA. I don't kill you guys, but it's just to know that, especially by graduate school, they expect you to know APA up and down. They're hard asses about it. I'm probably a little bit more forgiving.
So all of this is going to be APA.
Pretty much all social work is.
Also,
That's how I've been doing it. Like, just putting it in the corner.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's the way we kind of learned growing up. And it's just in social work that they like. That might be MLA. Is that possibly MLA, you think? So you're fine. That's why you're learning here. You know what I mean? Like, you guys aren't expected to know this right out of the gate. And even if we assign it that way, I still have to teach it. So now we're teaching you. That's not far off from this. It is weird as it's the whole damn page. It's like, and then it comes into the question like, do I have 4 besides this? Yes, you do. I have 4, and then so it's almost like a 6-page paper. Because it has this, which is 1, references at the end, which is 1. That's weird. Did I miss? Oh, they must have appendix. So you can add appendix too, but that's just kind of what APA looks like, and it keeps it fun and interesting. I can't believe we're cruising through all of these. What week are we even in? Does anybody know? Is it 6? So I know I was going through some of the self-care stuff and finishing up with that. In social work, we do cover human rights and social justice. And that's what comes up next. Just what does that look like? How do we get people starting with basic needs? So a lot of times we say, anybody here ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? That's the name of the dude who came up with it. Abraham Maslow. So M-A-S-L-O-W. We always say you can't serve people until their basics are met. So this dude who came up with a theory wrote up this pyramid. And then, is it any bigger on the previous page? Not really. So it's an idea in psychology posed by Maslow almost 80 years ago. Human theory of human motivation. So What do you think is the most important need to be met by everybody? This looks like a good picture. I like when they have cartoons or depictions, like drawings. So here is this guy. Oh, he's an entrepreneurial needs. That's interesting. So first, you have like food, water, safety, shelter. It says breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, homeostasis, excretion. Interesting. So until those are met, and it's almost on par with the orange one too. So this is what, makes you feel safe. So oxygen, nutritious foods. I do eat a donut every once in a while. That's why we have them out in the chair's office over there today. Water, sex, sleep. Without sex, none of us would exist. So that's like an important one. I know that it's an interesting way to think of it, especially nowadays, because does anybody know what the average number of kids a couple has nowadays would be? It's what?
It's probably high.
True, but how about start with America and then China and India?
One.
Like
China.
Oh, they did used to have one. So in America, it's 1.6 per every 2 people, which is crazy. That's a negative growth rate right now. So China and India are kind of making up for it. They have 1.5 billion each. So they're 3 billion of the world's 8 billion in population. I guess the point I'm getting at is that none of us would be here without sex. So in the past 100 years, there has been a major shift with not just contraception, but abortion was 50 years ago. And that may be driving where it's like 1.6 per every 2 people in America. And I would expect it to be higher too, as obviously we're still growing in population, but it's mostly from the other countries. So I'll try to show you a curve on that one. So how would you describe that? Population growth in America? And in Europe, it's just as bad. It's just the other countries. Well, there it is. So we had a big drop. Holy shit. Wait, is that for real? So we mostly grow because of immigration. So a lot of the folks that we get up here is, I remember what it's called. It's called birth rate. So the birth rate is 1.64 births per woman. And usually that's a man and a woman together. Does anybody know what replacement would be? Like if we were to replace ourselves, what would that look like? So like we don't have a negative growth rate. I would say at least 2. They call it 2.1 for some reason. They say we should have 2.1. So according to the report, reasons for trends, better access to contraception, more women seeking higher education, women entering and staying in the workforce, changing family values, relationship instability, and concerns over personal finances and the cost of childbearing. Last time we had a 2.1 was, here's Mexico. Holy crap. So in the 60s and 70s, Mexico was at like 5. In the 80s, they dropped to like 4 and then 3 in the 90s. I think folks say the last time the US was at 2.1 was like 71 was the last positive growth. Anybody know what happened in 1971? If you were to make a guess, why did the population drop off like that in 1971?
Come back from the war.
Roe versus Wade. Similar. So yeah, a lot of people came back from Vietnam. There was a baby boom. Like if this could be expanded out, you would see how many like the baby boom was from 46 to 64. Any of your parents born before 1964? All of your parents are my age, aren't they? Oh shit. Well, so there was a baby boom from 46 to 64. Like those were when we had tons of kids and babies and whatever. But 65 to 71, it kind of plateaued, as you can see. And right here is the last time we hit 2.1. 2.01. So that's positive growth right there in 1972. But they say replacement is at 2.1. When's the last time Mexico was at 2.1? It was. Oh, they still are almost. So in 09 or in 16, they were at 2.09. Now Mexico is having less. Holy crap. So are we overpopulated? What do you guys think? Too many babies, too many kids, environmental resources are gone. I heard we could fit everyone in the world in like 5 square acres. Maybe it's 5 square miles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that kind of tells me we might not be overpopulated. I don't know. What do you guys?
I don't think so, because if anything, just like people are being born, people are dying.
Right. That's another stat. So since you all were born, half of the world's population has been born. Since September 11th, they said 4 billion of the world's 8 billion have been born. And in 1999, we had our 6 billionth person born. So that tells me 2 billion have died and 4 billion have been born since Y2K or 1999 or whatever. Guess how many people we had on this earth when my dad is a pre-baby boomer. He was born in 1945, right before the war ended. There was only 2 billion people on earth in 1945, which kind of shocks me. I was like, so then we had 3 billion in 1971. I was born in 1978. My sister was born in 71. I was born in 78. My youngest sister was born in 86. We had 5 billion. In 1999, we had 6 billion. In 2010, we had 7 billion. And then in the past few years, we hit the 8 billion mark. So there has been a lot of growth, but in the US, and for whatever reason, we are declining, and even in Mexico now. So in 2020, COVID also had some bits to do with it. Here's the answer. It says the US is declining from 07 to 09. The birth rates declined sharply. They kept falling. So that's when the recession started too. So people were real scared about money. Like we had a housing bubble pop. You may hear your parents talk about this because a lot of us were laid off. In 07, the average birth rates were around 2 children per woman. And by 21, it's dropped more than 20%, close to the lowest levels in a century. So, it still was at, we got back to replacement, I guess. 2.1 in 07. And then the recession hit, and we just kind of collapsed down to the 1.6. I didn't know Canada was that bad either. I don't know when the last time Canada was at 2.1. Probably 71. So, long story short, because we are meeting with CSWE, so I'm trying to cruise through some of this today. But internationally, have any of you seen like a video from India or China where it's just crowded like heck? I visited there with Miami University a few years ago, and I was like, holy crap. Let's see here. Like some of them are kind of, I guess they show a lot of cars. So India did this year, April 19th, 2023, surpass China because they did have a one-child policy for a long time. So China,
Wayfair has nice prices, so you
and
can have nice
I
things.
think they had like
We have champagne taste.
abortion affect some of that.
India has overtaken China as the world's most populous nation. According to the UN, it has some 3 million people more than its neighbor. And with a population of 1.428 billion
There you
people,
go.
the South Asian nation is home to nearly a fifth of
That's a lot.
humanity, greater than the entire population of Europe or Africa or the Americas. Half of India's population is under the age of 30, and the nation is on track.
That's like a typical day on the street there. So you're just like shoving around. I thought New York City was bad. Then when I went to India,
No,
oh,
when I went to New York, I was in a fight, bro.
yeah, you're like, get me out of here.
And
Like,
then they rude too.
For real, like they are.
they're just aggressive.
Looking like, girl.
So with the one-child policy, and this gets into some human rights too. So what do you think happened with the one-child policy in China? You're allowed to have one kid. What kind of kid did most people in China want to have? So it was a boy, and now it's a girl. But you gotta understanding why is like the hardest part. Why do you think it? What's that? You seen a movie? You could only have one kid, so they would do selective abortions. Have you heard of selective abortions? They scan, they see it's a girl, they're like, which is crazy because here's what happened. Right now, that's what they did. That's what happened for 10, 20, 30 years in China. So now guess what happens? Because natural law, we affect with natural law. There used to be better videos about this too.
Why would they want girls and girls want to be pregnant?
Right, because then you can have. They wanted boys because of the inheritance for a long time. For whatever reason, men got the inheritance in like 50s, 60s, 70s. Maybe they were more aggressive or fought in wars or whatever it was. Well, because of that, here's what happened essentially. So this came out, it was a few years ago. There's a lot of articles on this in 2018.
A miserable place in China for lovers. Here, where single men sit around all day, it seems, with nothing to do. You come across them everywhere, listless and hopeless. And to make things worse, the few women here hightail it out this economically depressed region as soon as they can.
Women leave to go far away to the cities to work. They don't come back. They marry men there and don't come back.
Chinese have a preference for boys, and that has produced a gender imbalance across the country. Here in Hainan, island-wide, there are 130 men for every 100 women. And in some places, the ratio is as bad as 170 to 100. Meet
That's
the four
crazy.
brothers of the Tian family. The eldest, 40, is Tian Jingqing. He's single. Next comes Tian Lingrong, 38, also single. Then Tian Rong, who is single at 29, and finally the youngest, Tian Hui Rong, 27, of course, single. They tell us they've all given up on finding a wife. In a country where there are more men vying for fewer women, they say they've got little to offer.
We are poor. I guess we can work harder, but finding a wife is even harder than making money.
So they've resigned themselves to a life of bachelorhood.
I'm 40. There's no way for me. I just drink every day.
Their mother would nag her sons every so often. Her anxiety is not the exception in this village, but the rule. There are many families here, like the Tians.
Yes, I want grandchildren, but each day passes and nothing happens. I don't have that hope anymore.
This might be an extreme example of the male-female ratio problem, but to varying degrees, the frustrations of the villagers exist throughout China. And for those who engineered the single-child policy, the gender imbalance has been the worst unintended consequence. Because while families in the past might have just kept trying for a boy if the first child came out a daughter, the limitation has now meant only one chance to have that precious boy. Since the implementation of the single-child policy, the sex ratio in China, already bad, has gotten much worse. Abortions of girls abound. In order to prevent this, authorities have made it illegal for doctors to tell parents the sex of their child during ultrasound checkups. But as we found out, for about $20 US, it's easy to get an illegal ultrasound check. At this clinic, a man gives us the phone number of someone who, he says, can help. And this nurse here at a hospital says they can arrange an abortion. No questions asked. Just experts. Everywhere around Hainan are government messages to convince the public boys and girls are equal, echoing Chairman Mao Zedong when he said women hold up half the sky. But across the country today, many of the women are missing. Melissa Chan, Al Jazeera, Hainan, China.
So that's China.
Who they be missing? Like, they kidnapped them?
That's a whole nother international social work issue, but anybody hear of what's going on in Hawaii right now?
Is there a thing like,
They say there's like 1,000 children missing
oh, okay.
from that fire. Like they went to school that day. I don't even know if this is probably edited if you do. Why are 1,000 children missing in what's it called? In Hawaii. I don't even know how to spell Hawaii. I mean, it's made USA Today. So I think it could be a kidnap. And I hope so, as that's less of a conspiracy theory. Either way, it's sad. But if like there's truly, you guys have seen some of the international sex trafficking videos. The one that came out a month and a half ago called "Sound of Freedom." There's something going on for sure, and it's apparently I don't know how many videos come up if you do. You think this would be the number one issue of? Well, they got an 800 number for it. So here's World Day against trafficked persons, because this is where slavery still exists, and it's just, you know, to have a child miss their 12, 18 years of innocence. Interesting. kind of an innocent cartoon about a sad subject, but I think they're trying to get it to several languages, and there's the several that they're going for, but it's an obvious challenge that is still going on, and I'm semi surprised we don't see more about the Sound of Freedom. I think the Barbie movie took it over, like in the headlines. Anybody see Barbie, or did anybody see? Has anyone seen the Sound of Freedom? Which is interesting because it kind of got punked out with the for whatever reason. There were some folks saying in the theaters they would just turn the air conditioning off and just make it uncomfortable. People would ask for their money back, say it's not playing, but it's like, why? This is something we should be talking about. It's an international issue, affects all races, religions.
Every day, in every country in the world, human traffickers expose people to profit. The poor and the vulnerable are most at risk. Over 70% of detected trafficking victims are women and girls, while nearly 1/3 are children. COVID-19 has amplified trafficking dangers. Loss of jobs, growing poverty, school closures, and a rise in online interactions are increasing vulnerabilities and opening up opportunities for organized crime groups. The crisis has overwhelmed social and public services, impacted the work of law enforcement and criminal justice systems, and made it harder for victims to seek help. And yet, in these difficult times, we see the best of humanity. Frontline heroes, men and women risking their lives and going above and beyond to provide essential support for human trafficking. Essential support for human trafficking. This year's World Day Against Trafficking in Persons focuses on the first responders, the social workers, labor inspectors, law enforcement officers and prosecutors, health workers, and NGO staff who identify victims, help them on their path to justice, and will rebuild their lives. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime supports the first responders mission by channeling funding to help victims, providing protective equipment to anti-trafficking units and shelters, and assisting member states to mitigate the pandemic's impact on anti-trafficking responses. UNODC also manages the UN Voluntary Trust Fund to victims of trafficking in persons, especially women and children, which supports NGOs to provide direct assistance to 3,500 victims a year in more than 40 countries. I invite government and the private sector to donate to the Trust Fund, and I call on all people to show their support by joining UNODC's Blue Heart campaign against human trafficking. On the 2020 World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and in the COVID response and recovery, I salute and support first responders who provide a lifeline to trafficking victims. By reaffirming the rights and dignity of all people, we can recover better, more inclusively and more sustainably.
So on your next paper, this is a big international issue that comes up. Child and human sex trafficking is Sound of Freedom. Now they're still showing this. So today you could go to Fairfield or which is, I guess it's still stay on. How long do movies usually stay out? Is it 6 months? So like July, September, October, November. I guess it'll go until Christmas. So you still can see it. And just the true story of like what some folks face with human trafficking internationally. So right here on your next paper, the IFSW, that's one of the issues they would cover. Being a social worker for that is a possibility. Make sure it's visible to you guys. So, and it's a huge human rights issue. So That's the first three components in the human rights: protecting human life, ensuring freedom, securing personal liberty. The United Nations definition is that a human right is inherent and it's a fundamental freedom. So the first generation rights are like civil and political rights, standard of living to ensure health and well-being. And then the third generation rights are collective. So like solidarity among nations and the cooperation on global issues. So that's why this one comes up so much. Super Bowl day is like one of the biggest human traffic day all over the world, which I don't know why. Yeah,
I would love
I don't know why.
it. It's one of the biggest events, like, for America.
Yeah,
So we're not a perfect way to do that.
yeah.
First time, big people.
Also, football Sundays sees the largest increase in domestic violence on Sundays. Why do you think that is?
Because people
Get hammered and fight?
Men and women have anger issues when it comes to if their team is winning or losing. then-
Something you can't control even, and you're like, I mean, I was pissed the Bengals lost, but oh well, they're going to suck this year.
And then some people be
Mm-hmm.
drinking. And they're not.
Exactly. Yeah. Hello. So that is your next paper. I always kind of spread them out. Oh yeah, you guys can sign it. Any questions since they got us meeting with the Council on Social Education today? They forced me to end early, but they got you through some of chapter 6, some of the self-care. Any other self-care things that you guys added to your list of things to do? Here's something you can do. They say, take a long walk, meditate, pray, talk with a friend, listen to music, take a bath, play with animals, ride a bike, sit in the sun. Today it'll be like 79. Eat lunch outside, paint, draw, journal, cook. Oh, that was weird. Like cut out. I like walking that one bike path that we have. I think it's over that way. So I've started running it. Drink tea, dance, play a game, go to church or temple, stretch, lay in the grass, play soccer. I used to have those captions in Russia, in Russian down here. Because we had a student from Russia. Oh, did I turn them off? Yay. Thank goodness. I've had them on for way too long. So anyway, that is your third paper. Just remember to do it in APA. Remember to add a class in second term if you guys wanted to do
Oh,
18 hours.
they said I could only add a class of 2 credit hours.
And that's because you already had 16. Right. They usually do that to freshmen. You can take an overload if you have like a 3.0 or a 3.5 and above when you move on up in the world. They're like tough about it at first because they just don't want to overwhelm you your freshman year. 5 classes is a solid. If you had 6, it can be a lot more. Did you find a 2 credit hour? There may be at least one with the gym or whatnot. So any other questions about life? Well, that for today, because we have our 10:30 meeting with the big dogs, is all that I've got.